Speaking of staggering, a new study out by KPMG has put some really shocking numbers on the board for me a little bit. Um, and I know that there you want to talk about some of the other data, but the one that stood out for me is they have part of their finding was that the average enterprise, and I don't know that I saw that it dictated how large of a company, but it doesn't even matter, that the average enterprise, 68% of them are planning to invest between 50 million and $250 million in Gen AI next year, as in, I presume that means to be this year, 2025.
Yep.
That's a shocking number. That's a huge number for enterprise, right? This is above and beyond their general tech spend. And we've reported other data that the AI budgets are still right now sort of living in their own bucket, and this is clearly one of the reasons why. And so it speaks to, and it goes on. It speaks to a couple of things, right? The fact that one, we are still seeing the elusiveness of ROI. It's like we can't
Mhm.
really, enterprises are really struggling to demonstrate that ROI. And so for me, while I have gone on record saying I think this is the year of putting AI into production and we're going to start really seeing that migration, those kind of investments demand ROI. I mean, how do you make $250 million investment and not be able to show ROI? So it's going to be really interesting to see how CIOs and how enterprises are dealing with that. But it also speaks to just this amazing commitment to the promise of all of it. And part of me is a little worried. I mean, I am very bullish on the technology. I'm very bullish on its transformative impact, but I also know how this works, and it's going to take time. Just changing the culture of organizations to truly adapt and adopt how we apply this within the enterprise is just going to take years. And so I worry that this is going to get like a black eye, that companies put all this money in and say, well, where's my return? What have you done for me in the last
Mhm.
6 months? And are not going to be able to prove it. And it's going to kind of create this backlash. But we'll see. I mean, what was your take on that and some of the other data out of KPMG?
Yeah, I worry a little bit that we're putting the cart before the horse, not because I don't think AI is capable of doing a lot of work, but because I think AI might be mistakenly sold as a way to fully replace jobs at this point. And ignoring for a moment the like whether that's ethical or right or not, I think we simply don't have the infrastructure to actually make that happen. If I am replacing a low to mid level developer with AI, honestly, we know that AI code tends to be less efficient at this point. There tend to be errors. It's hard for AI to think about contextualizing something through a full multiple chains of thought for something complex like enterprise software. So how do we check with that, and how do agents how do these ROI how do these agents look to supporting AI actually get better and get managed? And who's doing the managing? Like all this stuff is not really worked out very well at this point, and I feel like that's a minimum perspective of where you would need to be to have AI actually replace an employee. You have to have some sort of management structure and feedback structure that is actually in place. And then on the flip side, I think looking simply at productivity without being able to replace jobs means that you may be looking at these little tiny tasks that don't actually provide value. So if you're turning a 7-second job into a 3-second job, like in theory, that sounds like you're getting productivity of over 50%. But in reality, what is a human going to do in those extra 4 seconds? That's not enough time to actually switch and do something else in reality. So that's not actually saved time at the end of the day. You're actually saving zero time. That's not actually a productivity benefit. So we're going to see these fake productivity benefits as well as a way to justify AI in a way that's not meaningful. So we'll
Yeah,
see what happens there. Yeah.
it is always tough. I mean, these are studies, these are basically, surveys, I should say, right? They're asking people's opinion. And so it always is difficult to ferret out. I do think it's interesting that there's another piece that I guess I didn't save either, but it talked about the fact that there's sort of code being used in a lot of the public companies and their investor reports where they're talking about being able to delay hiring of new workers, right? So, and it's this code for this productivity improvement, and there's some interesting debates as to whether or not we're in fact seeing productivity improvement, or to what degree, and to what degree we're able to measure it. But what I think is interesting is I think the conversation is going to have to evolve into be more nuanced, right? So I think that there's versions of it, right? If I have a class of workers who do a highly repetitive task, and I can shave 25 or 50% time off of that repetitive task, well, that should result in an actual demonstrable gain, because I can now do 100 tasks in the time that it used to take me to do 50 tasks. And so that should mean I can translate to hiring half as number of people, or doubling my workload without having to hire more people. And so there's that level. And then there's the knowledge worker who is doing all kinds of task switching and optimization, and then the question is, well, if I'm optimizing at that micro task level, yeah, I'm probably just going to, drink a coffee during those extra few seconds, and it's not going to actually translate into anything. And then the question is, in other cases, can I actually replace jobs, or can I actually restructure flows entirely? We talked about this last week in that professor who was talking about the AI organization and restructuring. And I think to really do that level, that you do need to do that. Right now, we are talking about completely re-envisioning business processes, because right now, if all you do is go fire all your junior developers, you're probably not going to get the gain you think you're going to get, because that productivity gain is going to get lost in now having the senior developers try to manage this workflow that they wouldn't have had to do otherwise. So I think there's all these different moving parts, and I think that's the continuing difficulty in this. But anyway, going back to the KPMG report, there was a couple other interesting aspects of it. The first was the agentic AI, right? And in full disclosure, company that I'm working with, Symphony AI, has a whole new agentic AI solution that I'm helping to work on. So this is something that I'm paying very close attention to. But I had to read it twice, actually. It says that over half, 51% of organizations are exploring the use of AI agents. Another 37% are piloting AI agents, and 12% are deployed in use and having agents deployed in use. And you look at that and you can easily take the headline and go, well, only 12% are in production. Well, first of all, it's brand new. But do the math and add all those numbers up, and that means 100% of the people they talk to are exploring, piloting, or deploying agents right now. That's a staggering number. I mean, I don't know if I even believe it, to be honest. So I think it's another interesting statement of where this sort of optimism is. And going back to my other statement, I remain concerned that the hype cannot possibly live up to the reality of how long this is going to actually take to see value from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm one of the findings that got my attention, maybe in a cautionary way, is that they stated that quality of organizational data was the biggest anticipated challenge to AI strategies, according to 85% of respondents, followed by data privacy and security, 71%, and then employee adoption, 46%. And those are all well and good, but we've just spent the past few minutes talking about how the actual work definitions and management issues are going to be a big issue in getting actual value out of AI as well. And the fact that that didn't make the top three does worry me, because I actually think the data issue, although important, may be a bit overstated, because one of the values of generative AI is its ability to extrapolate from data and to provide directional guidance, which is the right way to think about this. If we're looking for absolute 100% factual accuracy from generative AI, that's not even the right use case for something like this. But being able to look at, say, several months of interactions and being able to summarize what are the biggest themes associated with this person's call center work or sales work or service work or productivity or research findings, that's a much better use case. But not having the right system to be able to figure out how to deal with all of that, I think, is going to be possibly even a bigger issue than dealing with data and security issues, only because we have a lot of experience in how to work with data. Data security isn't really a secret. It's a challenge, but it's not a secret the way that working with AI is still, to some extent, a secret.
So I agree. Well, I agree on a certain level. I mean, I agree with your core premise. I think the understanding how to work with it, understanding how we're going to drive the cultural transformation necessary to change the way we work in the enterprise to leverage it
Mhm,
is going to be an unquestionable, I think, the longer standing issue. What I do think is interesting about the data quality, data governance, data privacy concerns is that they are the issues that I think are going to stop organizations from getting out of the starting blocks.
mhm.
And I think it's going to expose in a lot of enterprises just the bad state they're going to be in. And I think there's going to be not an insignificant number of CIOs who end up finding excuses to shelve some of these projects because it exposes just how poor their current data quality, data governance, and privacy controls are.
Mhm.
And so it's like, oh no, the quality isn't good enough. And it's going to be the AI's fault when the reality is it's going to be those internal issues. So I think those are the most important from the short term because they're the things that are going to stop you from getting a pilot even off the ground, right?
Mhm.
But I think long term, I agree. I mean, I think that it's right now. I think for a lot of organizations, they don't even know what they don't know. Um,
Yes, but
so that's
and
going
I
to be
think that in addition to the data governance, your agentic governance is going to end up being your API governance and your application integration governance, which are additional areas where, again, companies are going to find out, oops.
yeah, exactly.